Hey everyone, Liam Austin here, co-founder at Entrepreneurs HQ, and we're talking all about cold email. We've got Mike Lieberman here, who is the CEO and Chief Revenue Scientist at Square 2 Marketing, which is the leading inbound agency that he started back in 2003. And since then, Mike and his team has grown the business to over $6 million. So obviously a lot of knowledge, experience, I'm sure you're going to throw out to everyone today.
Yeah, hey, well, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, and excited to talk to you and your all your people out there in the audience.
Cool, mate. Well, yeah, for people who may not know you, do you want to just give a brief introduction to your business and how cold email fits into that?
Yeah, so Square 2 Marketing kind of grew up focusing on a lot of small and medium-sized businesses. Obviously, like you said, we started in 2003, and Facebook wasn't even a company yet. So we've obviously been part of a lot of the changing platform for marketers, and we've kind of seen this convergence of tools, and it's changed a lot of how we do our marketing. For a long time, we were a pure inbound marketing agency, which was good, 3 or 4 years ago. Lately, we've kind of evolved into an agency that focuses more on revenue for clients. So we'll help you get the leads and we'll help you close the leads, which I think is a little unique in our space. A lot of agencies are still kind of looking at creative and deliverables as their big value proposition, and we're trying to kind of graduate and help clients turn their marketing investment into actually new business and revenue. So I'd like to think that's a little bit different. We also have practice areas in the agency. So we have a technology practice. Obviously, technology is such a big part of marketing and sales today. So we'll help you with marketing automation. We'll help you with CRM. We'll help you with various tools. Email would be included, but tools for advocacy, tools for ABM, tools for data cleansing, whatever you need. We have a technology team that will help with that. We have an inbound practice, we have a demand generation practice, we have a sales enablement practice. Like I said, we want to help you close the leads we generate for you, and we also have an innovations and insights practice that will kind of parachute some really smart people into your company and help you for a couple days really talk through your whole business strategy and how marketing and sales fits into that, and then leave you with a bunch of action items for you guys to execute. So we provide a service like that also. 44 people. We have an office in outside of Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Bend, Oregon, and a small office in Fort Myers, Florida.
All right. Well, it sounds like you've been doing this for a while. You've built the team and the tech, and you've got the different departments there that is going to give almost like a full solution. And it's good to see the overall strategy from the beginning of the lead to actually making the revenue, and how that all fits together in one streamlined place. Which sometimes it is all kind of just all put together and a bit haphazardly. So let's just maybe jump on into the session now and talk about what you wanted to share with people today.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you kind of started to touch on what some of the challenges are a little bit, and that is that historically marketing has been kind of this siloed practice. You have like your website people and your PR people and your SEO people and maybe your email people, and it's hard for them to kind of work together to do what I think they need to do, which is create this seamless and highly engaging click-to-close experience for clients. Like what we've tried to do is build an agency that's built around our clients' prospects experience, right? Their very first experience with most companies is they're going to land on your website. They have to have an amazing experience. They have to understand your story. It has to be emotional and compelling and disruptive. And you have 10 seconds to get it to them, before they hit the back button and check out your competitors. You have to fill that experience with rich content, and you have to nurture them until they're ready to buy. And you really have to understand what their buyer journey is. And there's a wide variety of tools that help you stay connected to them and continue that conversation. And I think that's one of the challenges for most marketers is how do we create this seamless experience for our clients, both when they're involved in the marketing piece of it, but then also when that lead gets handed off to sales. If you're giving them a great marketing experience and then a salesperson picks up a really good lead and they start pumping them with, I need an appointment and I want to send you pricing and can you buy something, like there's a disconnect there in what that experience is. So that sales experience has to kind of continue to be advisory and guidant and educational in nature in order to keep people feeling comfortable. And that's really what we try to do with clients, is create that full marketing and sales click-to-close experience that gets people to want to hire them.
All right, great. So there's this full experience that you probably need to completely understand, and then we come down to maybe one specific tactic, which is email.
Yeah.
How does that all fit in?
Yeah, so obviously email is a huge part of marketing, and it's a highly efficient one, which I think is why so many marketers and salespeople kind of gravitate to it. You know, it's easy to send out 10,000 emails. It's easy to, you know, send out 10 emails if you're a sales rep. And I think the key when we start to talk to clients about email is making sure that those emails are connected to the overall strategy and have a very specific purpose. So, you know, you asked me to talk a little bit about cold emailing. So, obviously, it's not at the top of my list of things to do because it's basically buying unqualified names and attempting to get them to engage. But if that is something you're going to do, there are lots of things you can do to make that a lot more effective. And primarily, we all have been the subject of bad cold emailing, right? People email us, hey, I want to sell you something. Hey, can I have an appointment? Hey, can I send you something? And lots of times we're kind of stuck between, do I just delete it, or do I reply and say I'm not interested? Do I just ignore it and hope they'll go away? And that's not the response we're looking for. So when we start to help clients with this type of approach, we want to start with strategy. And the strategy basically is, what story are we trying to tell them, right? Human beings are really good at stories. We're really bad at features and benefits. So we have to be able to, even in a cold email, we have to make sure that really quickly it tells a story and the recipient's the hero of that story, right? Lots of times companies make the mistake of thinking they're the hero, or their product is the hero, or their service is the hero. And you need to really craft a story that positions your prospect as the hero. You know, if you do X, you will be this superstar in your business. You'll get promoted. You'll get recognition. You'll drive revenue. You'll drive lead. You know, whatever we think their major objective is, we have to make sure that's a big part of the story. And then we also have to make sure that in just a couple of sentences, they're clear on what we're going to do for them. It's not about what we want them to do, especially initially. We want it to be about how we're going to help them. We're going to give them some information that's going to help them. We're going to provide them some insight that's going to make them look smart. We're going to share something with them that they'll be able to take to other people in their organization and look, you know, highly productive, highly respected, or whatever that, you know, key point is. So I think that's the first big takeaway when it comes to cold emailing, is making sure that there's value in it for the person you're sending to, that the story is about them, and that you're clear in what you're going to do for them before you ask for something back from them.
Absolutely. I think, you know, when you're talking there about whether, you know, I've got this cold email, whether I reply to it or not, I think, you know, just those elements there are going to make people think, wow, I have to reply to this, versus, oh, this is something I'm just going to throw in the trash.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that subject line is the most important for getting an email opened. And typically what you want to try to do with that is provide some type of disruption to them, right? These people didn't ask you to email them. They're not looking for an email from you. So by starting to disrupt their status quo a little bit, you can get their attention in terms of, well, I might need to open this because this might be something I'm missing. I can give you a really great example. We had a cybersecurity client who we were working with, and they didn't do the kind of cybersecurity where they keep the bad guys out. They did the kind of cybersecurity where they can identify where the bad guys are already inside and then find a way to quarantine them so they can't do any damage. So we wanted to start with a story that was like, the bad guys are already in your network, right? That is a subject line for a cybersecurity person at a company is very disruptive. What do you mean there are bad guys in my net? I'm supposed to be keeping them out, and you're telling me there's bad guys in there. I got to find out what's going on here, because obviously I'm not doing my job if I've let the bad guys in already. So, you know, you want to come up with a really good disruptive message to kind of get their attention, and then you want to provide them some insight, some data, some intelligence, some information that maybe they were unaware of, to continue to keep them engaged in that story. So that's an example of how you want to try to disrupt someone's status quo in the example of a cold email.
All right, I like that. The disruptive, subject line that's really going to grab their attention. Do we need to follow up that disruption into the email itself? Does it need to be a continued flow, or can it just be that, hey, that attention grabber?
No, I mean, like we said earlier, you want to tell a story, right? So, if the title of the book is, the bad guys are already in your network, then you want the first couple of chapters and first couple of the sentences to kind of continue the story. So what do you mean? How did that happen? How do I know if that's the case? Really good emails have that disruptive title, and then they kind of continue the story where they're providing some data. For instance, 80% of networks have already been penetrated, and the people responsible for protecting them are unaware, right? Again, now if I'm that guy, I'm thinking like, this could be bad for me. How do I find out if they're already in there, right? And then the big payoff with this email is the offer at the end, which I think people get wrong a lot of times also. They make the offer about them. Schedule an appointment on my calendar. Call me back if you're interested. I'm going to be in your neighborhood. Can I have a meeting? Like, those are not oriented around the recipient. They're oriented around you and your company. So what we did was offered an assessment to find out if the bad guys are already in the network, right? So that's pretty much all about the recipient. Like, you don't have to worry. I'll tell you if they're in there already. And then obviously I'll tell you some things you can do to either get them out or to quarantine them so they don't cause any damage. So again, I think sometimes people go bad with these emails is they don't have the right offer. It's not a value-oriented offer for the people you're sending the email to. So, and to me, that's the end of the story. So the story started with disruption. I gave some insight into some data that they may be aware of. I'm offering them something of value to help them. They're going to be the star of the story because they found this person inside their network and protected the network, and all because of something that I helped them with.
And how important is the offer? Because I'm assuming like all the other pieces grab the attention, but the actual results, how much impact does the actual offer have on the results of that campaign?
Yeah, I mean, this is where marketing strategy sometimes has an impact on what the offer is. So look, every single prospect and client I've ever worked with wants the sales ready leads, right? They're not that interested in the people who are shopping and looking around, the top of funnel people. So we come with in this case, the one I'm describing to you, we came with like a sales engaged type offer, right? It's the salesperson that's going to have that conversation with them and help them assess their network. So that was that company's strategy, right? There may be some companies that are simply looking to build their database, right? And if that's the strategy, then we might have more of a content offer. Hey, click here to download this white paper on 10 things to look for to see if a bad guy's in your network, right? That would be more of a top of the funnel offer. That's probably going to convert at a much higher level because the way we describe it is it's lower risk. All I have to do is give you my email address to get that, but I am interested in that content, which in my opinion makes you a marketing qualified lead. So you're going to probably get more downloads for a content offer at the top of the funnel than you are for a sales appointment, basically, right? But depending on what the client is looking for, we tailor the offer accordingly. It could be a webinar, which would be more of a middle of the funnel offer, right? Somebody who's in the consideration stage might give you 45 minutes or an hour to attend a webinar on, tactics to see if bad guys have infiltrated your network. So again, it's going to have to fit into the company's marketing strategy, but the offer creation is really important if you want to get really good results from that email campaign.
All right, so this is just really interesting about fitting all these pieces together, and it sounds like there's a blueprint here, a structure you should have for your email. Is there a certain type or certain emails that this blueprint works for, and is there any that it doesn't?
Well, it's really going to be, I'm kind of like a hater on, best practices and templates and things like that, because I really feel like every business is unique in its own way, and every buyer journey is also a little bit unique to the buyer and the company that's trying to support them through that cycle. But I think in general, you want to try to kind of keep it as brief as possible. We all know how we feel when we see that long email. Like, it's like literally our brain is telling us, like, look at that later. Like, you can't deal with that right now. And we want to try to stay away from that. So we want to give that initial visual representation to be something that's very bite-sized and very, very digestible for the people that are getting it, so they don't feel like I want to look at this later. So brevity is good. We want to keep it short and succinct. If the sentence doesn't have a real purpose, I tend to try to take it out. That eliminates some of the fluff and the niceties you see sometimes woven into these emails. And we kind of tell the story, get to the point, and tell them what we can do for them. I think overall that's a blueprint or a structure that a lot of people could apply to improve the performance of their email marketing campaign. But I think generally it's disruption, insight, offer in a story format, and you'll generally do pretty well if you take that approach to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you know, that kind of structure, that approach, I've seen work quite well. But for instance, if you wanted to try this out in your business, like how would you go about maybe testing this to see which ones improve?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So there's a lot of tools where you can do some kind of scientific testing, you know, like A/B testing on subject lines. So pretty much any of the email marketing tools out there will allow you to build 2 emails and A/B test them to your audience. So, you know, send 100 randomly to this one and 100 randomly of this one, and then whichever one does better, shift the campaign to the higher performing email. So I think that's generally a pretty good best practice. And by the way, if you don't have any kind of fancy A/B testing software like that, you can just send 100 emails or one way and see how they do, and then send 100 emails to another group of people and see which one does better. No, it's not going to be scientific, and no, it's not going to be a random selection, but I still think you can get an idea of which subject line is doing better and which email is converting better, and then send all of the rest of your audience the one that does better. So I'm also not a statistically scientific marketer either, so you know, I don't know that everything has to be 95% confidence in, you know, I did take statistics in college, but I can't say I did really well at that. But I think you just have to have enough data points to feel like it's going to be a good representation. You know, if you only have 500 email addresses, you know, 20 or 30 data points might be enough. If you have 50,000 email addresses, then, you know, a couple hundred data points or even 1,000 data points might be better to represent, you know, the overall audience you're going to be sending to. But I do think testing is important, and I also think testing can be done in more of an ongoing basis. So, you know, let's try this format this month, and the next month let's try a slightly different format to the same audience, and we can see which one did better that way too. Again, it's not going to be perfect because obviously the subject line and the content is different. There's other variables impacting your test, but there are key learnings that you can take away from that without executing like a super scientific approach to this.
Yeah, that's so true, isn't it? It's just a matter of putting it out there and seeing the results come back. And if you want to do some testing, you know, there's software to do it, but if not, you can obviously do it manually as well.
Yeah, I'd also recommend, like a lot of our clients tend to get very hung up on the perfect aspect of marketing, and we typically try to advise them that done is better than perfect. So it's better to send an email that maybe you're not sure about than waiting and waiting and waiting and working on it and working on it and working on it, and you know, you finally have it done, but it took you an extra month to get it done. Like, it's generally better, I think, from a marketing perspective, to put the stuff out there, get data on it, get some learning from it, and iterate more quickly around it, as opposed to thinking, you know, everything has to be perfect before we execute this. You know, it's a very data-driven exercise these days, and the goal should be to get the data and learn from the data and continue to iterate based on the data as much as you possibly can.
All right. Well, I think you know, you've covered this this blueprint, this structure really well, and I think people will start implementing this. They'll start seeing results, especially if they're going to be doing those tests as well. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, or any mistakes that you've seen happen that people should be avoiding?
Well, I think the general mistake is kind of, you know, wanting to rush to the sale, right? You know, a lot of marketers are influenced by their sales counterparts who are constantly pressuring them to get good sales opportunities and really good high quality leads. And I think that sometimes forces marketers to make some decisions that are not necessarily the right decisions. You know, like back to my earlier example, like it is highly effective to try to get people to download a white paper as the first step in a getting to know you process through a cold email campaign, as opposed to asking for an appointment. And I see a lot of people rushing to the appointment before I've even gotten to know them and their company. I've also seen emails sent without good signatures at the bottom. And, now there's really no way for me to learn who is this person, who is this company, what do they do? I'm literally at the mercy of their poorly written email, and the result there generally is like delete, ignore, and that's not the objective they were going for. So, I highly encourage your audience to make sure that the information is in the email that I am going to want as a recipient. I want to be able to see who you are. I want to be able to go to LinkedIn. I want to be able to go to your website. Your website has to be killer. I actually clicked on an email. One of the few times I clicked on an email, and I went to the company's website, and the website was incomplete. Its copy wasn't finished, and it was like really a poor representation of the company. And I felt like, wow, like he sent me an email that worked. I converted, I went, and his website was incomplete. So you have to start thinking about what that experience is going to look like before you send the email. I'm not saying you need a 100-page website, but the 5 or 6 pages that you do have to be great, and they have to be well designed and well thought out and clearly tell your story that matches the email. Everything in marketing and sales is about making me feel safe with you, making me feel comfortable that you're going to do right by me and my company. And if I go to your website and it's not well designed or not clearly articulated, or there are things missing, I'm just going to start to get more and more nervous and more anxious about doing business with you. And that's probably going to lend to me like not wanting to connect and not wanting to click on your email and not wanting to continue the conversation. So think through that prospect buyer journey with you and make sure that all the elements are buttoned up and ready to go.
Awesome, mate. Well, I think, yeah, that's the complete view of it. And, there's this blueprint you should be following. There's a lot of things that I think people can walk away with and implement straight away after this session. So, Mike, thanks for that. If people have any other questions or want to find out more about you, how do they go about that?
Yeah, so you can email me direct. My email is mike@square2marketing.com, the number 2. Anyone who knows me, I will reply to every email, and I will spend time with you trying to help you figure this out or talk about your company's situation and give you some guidance. Happy to do that. You can follow me on Twitter at Mike2Marketing. So if you want to hear what I'm talking about, you can follow me there. And I also blog pretty much every day on the Square 2 blog. So if you want to hear what I'm talking about and see what I'm thinking about, then you can subscribe to the blog at Square2Marketing/blog and get kind of insights into what we're talking about from a marketing and sales perspective.
Well, there's, 2003, what's that, 14 years now of experience and knowledge. So I'm sure there's lots of resources there on the blog. So definitely go check that out, people. But Mike, thanks very much for your time.
No problem. My pleasure. Happy to do it.